Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel with a special treat for you today. Today we're doing an updated deck profile on the all-secret rare Pegasus Challenge deck I profiled for you before. Now, as you know, that deck did not contain a full 40 cards, but we're getting closer to the desired number of cards and got a little extra special surprises of more first edition secret rare cards in this deck profile for you all to enjoy. Now, as with the previous one, I mentioned that the rules for this deck profile is that as per the old rules of the Pegasus Challenge and not the new, every single card in your main side and extra must be of a single rarity, and for my specific ruling, everything in here has to be secret rare, has to be its maximum rarity. So anything that can be secret rare original set in here is. As you know, this deck has, despite it just being assembled from random secret rares that I have laying around the house, has managed to take a lot of people down, surprisingly, and is a pretty interesting contender. So, without further ado, let's get into the deck profile, and I'll explain some more of my choices, as well as give a little explanation on some of the new cards that I added. So, to start out, first and foremost, we have the 3 copies of Metaion the Time Lord. This card is absolutely fantastic, especially in slower games, with the immunity to battle, battle damage, destruction by battle or card effect, as well as being able to bounce all monsters on the field. The non-targeting bounce that bounces everything back to the hand when it attacks or is attacked, and inflicts 300 damage to your opponent for each one. Granted, it shuffles back into your deck during the standby phase, but on your opponent's turn, he can provide a way to clear the field on your turn and a way to be a wall on your opponent's turn. So absolutely a fantastic card. Next, we have 3 copies of Vampire, the Shadow Vampire. This was from the last profile as well. Ability to special summon and swarm when you normal summon him or tribute summon him. We're rocking the hand duo again with Fire Hand and Ice Hand. Very good cards. Your opponent really won't see them coming sometimes, since the hands have largely been relegated to not as much use. This is, of course, a casual deck, so playing against casual opponents can give you a little bit more surprise factor where the hands are concerned. 1 copy of Dark Grepher. This is great because your deck runs a lot of high-level dark monsters, and getting them out of your hand and into your graveyard is perfect for some of the key plays that you want to make. 1 copy of Breaker the Magical Warrior. Spell and trap removal is always very good to have, and Breaker just serves his role well. 1 card blocker. He's here from the previous one. I just really kind of like this card. I have a soft spot in my heart for this card, considering it's worst card trooper, and was only used by Jaden actually 1 time, and it was printed as a secret rare, but I still think it's kind of a cool card. And attacking for game to this is probably like almost as good a feeling as resolving like Full House. 1 copy of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, just because it's a tuner and 1800 defense. I literally do not use it in this deck for its intended purpose, and it causes no end of confusion to whenever my opponent sees such an expensive card in such a random, fun, stupid deck like this. 1 copy of Majesty's Fiend. Fantastic card. If there's any game ender in this deck, it's Majesty's Fiend is probably it. This card just will end games very fast, just with its full-on blanket effect negation. 1 copy of Dark General Freed. Very good card to have in the deck for just, instead of searching, if you want to get your Dark Grepher or you want to get your Breaker the Magical Warrior from your deck to your hand, Freed does it, and instead of your draw phase, you get them. Granted, he's a very slow card, but he still has his uses in the deck, and I think he should not be forgotten about. Dark Red Enchanter, copy 1 of. As I mentioned, this was the card that sort of encouraged me to make the deck, and I'm happy to still be able to play it. 1 Fiendish Engine Omega, for its ability to summon engine tokens, which you can then use for like tribute summons. And if you back it up with some of the extra spell and trap cards I put in the deck, Fiendish Engine Omega can get a lot of tokens out and create more tribute fodder for you. And in addition, if you're going for game, he can buff himself up by 1,000 in exchange for being destroyed during the end phase. Then we have one copy of Gorz, the Emissary of Darkness. This is pretty self-explanatory. No cards on the field. You can activate that effect and destroy. And one of the funnest things that I actually did over the past weekend was actually using his effect damage effect before I had even had my turn. So my opponent was going first, and inflicted some burn damage to me, and then I just special summoned Gorz from my hand, inflicted the same damage from them, and he actually had to pick up the card and read it, because most people are used to Gorz being able to be summoned by battle, but before I'd even taken my first turn, I hadn't committed a single card to the field, and could therefore special summon Gorz on my side of the field before even taking my turn, so that was pretty cool. Gorz is a fantastic card in this deck. One copy of Puppet King. When your opponent searches, you special summon this thing, and it's a 2800 beater that doesn't die until the end of your turn. Usually by that point, you can use him as like tribute fodder for like Majesty's Fiend or Dark Red Enchanter. Rip an extra card out of your opponent's hand that they weren't expecting. One copy of Ice Master, good for her special summon ability. The Elsa of Yu-Gi-Oh! And tribute her. Once per turn, put ice counters on monsters your opponent controls, and then you can tribute her to basically be a dark hole for all monsters on the field with ice counters. This guy right here, the Invader of Darkness, invades all of your darkness, negates quick plays, so like pretty much like MST, Cosmic Cyclone. Twin Twisters is the most like powerful of the quick plays, but any quick plays are basically putty in the hands of this guy. Protects your back row, protects your field spell. Just is blanket protection all around. And then finally for the monster count is one copy of Mechlord Emperor Skiel. I really like this card. It was one of my favorite Mechlords, I think, between Skiel and Wiesel. But I just like Skiel because like nobody else really does. And his effect to be able to special summon when one of your monster is destroyed by a card effect can actually trigger quite often, beat in that extra 2,200 points per game. Puppet King and Fiendish Engine Omega both have an effect that destroys them, as well, that destroys them like at their end phase when they activate like certain effects. And then you can just get out Skiel to be an extra wall or some kind of extra like thing to be able to beat down your opponent. So that's it for the monsters. Now moving on to the spells. We have 3 copies of Clear World, my favorite field spell, as you well know. Gets effects for each card that's either you or your opponent have for an attribute. Fire, take 1,000 damage. Light, play with your hand revealed. Dark, which actually is the least harming, is you if you have controlled 2 or more monsters, you cannot attack. Earth, destroy 1 face-up defense position monster you control. Fire, you take 1,000 damage at the end of the turn, and I'm not sure which one I'm missing. So Earth, Water, Fire, Dark, and then Wind is take 500 life points every time you activate a spell card. So you can basically just like stymie your opponent's plays, continuously rip stuff out of their hands, and each effect will affect your opponent. This deck works very well under Clear World, despite many different attributes, and it'll usually be your opponent that's going to take the brunt of the damage from this card's actions. So super good. 2 Recurring Nightmare for recurring back your vampire cards. These are great for like if you're searching out Dark Grepher with Dark General Freed. You just activate Recurring Nightmare and be able to fetch back your 2 vampires, ditch 1 for Dark Grepher to special summon, and then if you want to summon one of your other vampires by tributing Dark Grepher, you can do that, or ditch the other vampire from your hand to send 1 dark monster from your deck to your graveyard. Galaxy Cyclone, because it's really good and pops face up and face down cards. And finally, for our spells is brand new, a copy of Shared Ride. Most of the card decks right now do a lot of searching and a lot of drawing, and anytime your opponent adds cards from their deck to their hand, you get to draw a card. You're playing against ABCs. They search. They use Tsukiyomi, draw 2. You draw as well. The more they draw, the more you draw. So very, very good card. Usually, you're going to draw maybe at minimum 1 and then like at maximum mostly like 2. But still getting that +1 and being able to plus before your turn even starts is too good to pass up. Now moving on to the traps, and this is where I think most of the new stuff has been added. There's a lot of new stuff in the trap that's really bolstered the defenses of this deck and allowed it to be able to sort of compete. Starting first off is the first Monarch. Now I really like the first Monarch because I think it's a very interesting card that a lot of people didn't really want to give any chance to. Most people, when they pulled this out of their pack, instead of pulling like an Evil Swarm Exciton Knight or something like that, cursed the ground and were like very, very pissed. But the first Monarch, you can flip it up; it becomes a trap monster, kind of like the other Prime Monarch. And when you activate first Monarch, it can be used. It comes on the field as a dark monster and can be used as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a monster who shares an attribute. And then once per turn, you can discard 1 card and declare an attribute, and this card becomes that attribute. So no matter what, there's a lot of 2 tribute monsters in the deck. There's there's Dark Monster, there's the Water Monster, there's Puppet King as well. There's a good number of 2 tribute monsters that you can use this on, and it's a 2400 wall and can be very, very good for getting out your Fiendish Engine or your Invader of Darkness. And usually your opponents are going to have to read that card because they don't know quite what it does and are fearful of it. 1 copy of Smashing Horn. I'm just testing this out right now. I can't wait to activate this. Basically, this just negates Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning, and then any of the Horn trap cards. The basic effect is very situational. When your opponent activates a monster effect or trap card that would negate the normal or special summon of a monster you control, you can negate that effect and destroy it. So granted, this already has to be set, but pretty much the only traps used in this format nowadays are counter trap cards that negate summons, and nothing stops that better than Smashing Horn, and nothing stops that for less of a cost. Like Wiretap will just recycle the card back into the deck, but Smashing Horn negates it and gets rid of it for good. So even though its realm of negation is very low, it's still something that can really catch your opponent by surprise. 1 copy of Mistake. Your deck doesn't do a lot of searching, so if you can get Mistake out there and you can prevent your opponent from searching, guess what? You're going to be winning. 1 copy of Ring of Destruction. Destroy your opponent's monsters, and then inflict damage equal to both of them. This card kind of got its fangs taken away by the errata, but is still nonetheless a very potent card. Brand new is 1 copy of Storming Mirror Force and 1 copy of Drowning Mirror Force. These are the 2 big Mirror Force cards. I'm thinking about adding 1 copy of Blazing in here as well. Storming bounces things back to your hand instead of destroying them, and then Drowning Mirror Force will, if your opponent attacks directly, usually if you have a hand full of crappy, 2 or more, one or 2 tribute monsters, your opponent attacks directly, you drowning them, and you gain an extra turn by just bouncing all of their shit back to their deck. And then the final card in the deck is 1 copy of Pinpoint Guard. I actually used to play this before. Requires a battle phase, but can special summon a monster from your graveyard, level 4 or lower, in defense position. So one of my favorite things to do is use Pinpoint Guard to special summon the the card blocker if my opponent declares an attack on one of my monsters, special summon the card blocker, the attack automatically gets directed to card blocker, mill 3 cards off the top of your deck, and yeah. So, two cards which you'd never expect to be used together, thanks to the fact that they're both secret rare, now seeing play with each other in the deck. So, yeah, that was my secret rare deck profile. I really hope that you guys enjoy it. This is an updated deck profile of this deck. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on the channel. And this has been the Mermail Master with the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I'm signing out. See you guys next time. Peace.